Greetings and God bless. Sorry for the poor reading. Um, so I was looking up some World War II photos of Dresden, and it reminded me of Maui. Right now it's October 2024, so we have had the hurricanes that destroyed parts of North Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, I believe. And people are saying that these storms are not behaving like normal storms. I think there's actual formal governmental admission that this is engineered, that this was some type of weather manipulation. Weather warfare is another word for it. Similar, so the devastation of Maui and Paradise, California. I mean, there's probably so many fires and catastrophes that I can't recall, that didn't even really make national news or world news. And it seems like it's directed energy weapons or some type of NORAD or HARP or whatever, weather warfare. And, makes me think of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So, and also if you're up on the Tartaria, mud flood, Antiquitech kind of stuff, that there's melted buildings, that there's these remnants of an advanced civilization, that stone was melted, stone was burned, like as if through it looks like there's laser beams that's burned the stone or that's burnt the brick. And conventional mainstream narrative will be like, well, that's not brick, that's not stone. um, that was just built 100 years ago, not 600 or 1,000 or 3,000 years ago. So it seems the same demonic, satanic people have been manipulating our reality and our history. And so, what's the history? What's the narrative that we're in right now? So America's under a major attack. I mean, what, I think 50 million illegals, like the worst, the dredges of countries came here illegally. Okay. Like in the past, the people who were legal immigrants, they did a test and they were like PhDs. I mean, because I met them. I grew up in New York City. Um, so before this current administration, we had like the great people were coming, and then the whole like false flag on the 11th of September happened, and so then um, things were made difficult for the legal, highly desirable people to come here, um, and now we're being inundated with these cannibalistic, yeah, like people who have no idea about the Ten Commandments and no interest in it. And I know leftists, Marxists are like, oh, the Ten Commandments is so passé. The incredible hypocrisy and irony of leftists and Marxists that I know, because their parents and grandparents take care of them, and they have their fancy iPhone, and they get their Tiffany presents, and they're eating vegan, and they've eaten organic all their life. Like, these people are incredibly blessed by the legacy of the West, and they're so misguided and lost, and they just think that they have to hate what's good for some reason, because I don't understand, because they don't have a relationship with God or morality, and they don't have an identity. I don't know what is going on. I mean, I've known Marxist leftists all my life, and I just, took them at face value. But now After the past 4 years with the lockdowns and the forced suffocation and the forced injection, like, I knew of people who committed suicide so they didn't have to get the injection to be at work. They felt there was no other option. They felt like they had to die because the injection seemed like an insurmountable thing. Not to mention during lockdowns, 300,000 people committed suicide because of the lockdowns. And what is so evil, so pervasive about the leftists, and that's a lot. I mean, I consider a lot of people leftists. Um, is they're not even thinking about the lockdowns. They could care less about the lockdowns and the suffocation and the breaking the krypton plate, the blood-brain barrier to get that PCR test. PCR tests were only developed for venom. That's the only thing it was could assess. And the developer of PCR tests, Kerry Mullis, who conveniently was his life unalived in 2019, he said that PCR tests were not to diagnose illness or disease. These were originally developed for venom. And so when these were used, now who knows what was put on the PCR test, because positive CV was a lucrative thing. Even so, venom is used. It's a common item in pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, pesticides. So it was on your food, it was on your makeup, it's in the medicine that you take. So, of course, you're going to get a positive PCR test for venom. And people were calling envenomation an infection. But I digress. So, so I was looking at the pictures of Dresden, this bombed out city, and in the Tartaria mud flood group community, folks are saying how these had technology that kept people healthy, whether it was what we're told are cathedrals, but may have been some type of cymatic sound and light vibration frequency healing machines. Who knows? Maybe they provided power and light because apparently there was technology where there was free energy. And I suspect that people didn't actually have to eat. They didn't have to defecate because I was watching, I think it's Medieval History. He's like some CEO of a game company, but he has a very nice channel, Medieval History. And he was saying how castles didn't have bathroom facilities. Now, how would a king and a queen not have toilets? And like he was like in one of the videos, he was saying how it was like there would be, the toilet was where feces was like would cover the face of the castle. Now, clearly, with these beautiful structures, and they also didn't have provisions for extreme weather, like extreme cold. So I wonder if their technology fed them, kept them warm. Of course, it could be that there was different weather temperatures that they were exposed to, but this was a highly aesthetic culture. They would not have people defecating on the face of the building like that. That's so silly, especially when they had such advanced technology. And yet I'm also speculating if people even needed to eat at all. They were maybe breatharians. So back to Dresden, though. Dresden, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Maui, Paradise, California, and all these other places in California or Colorado or Montana and Florida, Hurricane Katrina, now in North Carolina, and just like what's going on in October 2024, and all the other places that I have missed. Stuff in Rwanda, like where there's mind control. There's this thing called Operation Crimson Mist, where they brought the Hutus and Tutsis who were ethnically, like biologically, the same group of people, but the Dutch, I think it was the Dutch East India Company, created the race division, okay? Just and it's like this Jesuit, it's like this deep state thing where you create this false opposition, this false antipathy, which like is happening in America today. Like nobody gets along with anybody. If you have any opinion about anything in October 2024, you're gonna you're not gonna be able to talk to anybody close to you because somehow because just we have different opinions. We curate our own news and our own entertainment and our own education, and so we just get very atomized, very individualized, and it just seems like everybody has a difference. And this technique of getting getting everybody to fight everybody about every little point, you know, because 20 years ago, I met like hardcore vegans and hardcore vegetarians, raw foodists, just I was an omnivore, carnivore. And nobody was like, you have to be my way. Nobody was like, you have to be like, follow my political prescription. Um, at least like when it came to something like food. And it seems like I noticed the kind of militant vegan thing started up with the implication that if you weren't vegan, you were unkind, you were somehow cruel and abusive. And you know who I find to be cruel and abusive? Vegetarians and vegans seem to be the most misanthropic, like heartless, mean SOBs. And they're so smug about how great they think they are. So, but I digress. So, was Germany this directed energy weapons attack by the parasites? Because, like, I've been hearing, like, I don't know a whole lot about history outside of the mainstream narrative. And I just was watching something about how this particularly um, troubling actor of history got Germany out of usury. And I don't know if like they got off of the fiat currency and into gold and silver, but like it was a very destitute uh, country. Women were selling their bodies and men were starving. And then this guy with a little mustache came and uh, eliminated the problems, the economic um, um, structures, and installed good structures. And so people had housing and they could afford their food. And it was all based on the efforts and the merits of the Germans, of the German people. And within like 5 or 7 years, like they were leaders of the world and have been pretty much ever since, until they've shot themselves in the foot because probably the European Union being hijacked by the deep state. So, uh, so I'm just wondering. I mean, and it's in the Tartaria community. It is speculated that wars are created so beautiful, like the cathedrals and the technology is destroyed. Like that's the goal, and like Notre Dame had a fire. Like all these, like a lot of places are subjected to arson, it seems. And so it was just an interesting, like, I'm just putting the connecting some dots in case it might be of interest to folks. And we need to question everything. Like when I was in college, like nobody really talked about the terrible things that happened in China at the Cultural Revolution, Russia, the Bolshevik Revolution. And, there were hints about something not so great happening in France with the French Revolution. And only recently, I've just been stumbling upon details, and it's like, wow, so the Bolsheviks, these communist Satanists, uh, they just destroyed entire populations, millions and millions of people, like heartlessly. And it's just like, what was there before this destruction? Um, are the bad guys that we're told are bad, were they the real bad guys? Because this character with the funny little mustache in Germany in World War II, like, I just watched some of his speeches, and the thing is, like, I'm pretty sure that person was deep state Illuminati, probably created, as a clone or something like that. But listening to that, or reading the actual words of the speeches, and I wonder if the audio that we have of that person is altered, because it's unbearable. Like, the screeching, it's like trying to listen to RFK Jr. Like, I know a lot of people love him, but I cannot listen to that person. I, I can't listen to Kamala. I can't listen to Biden. Like, they're just insufferable. And the way the person with the funny little mustache, like, but reading what the person says, it seems actually good, and that's pretty mind-boggling to me. Um, and so this is just all new, and I just wanted to bring up that we need to look at the mainstream narrative, really, like, really examine it closely. And this goes from science to math to history to astronomy. We accept this prevailing norm narrative. We learn such and such, A plus B equals C, but I think that we need to make sure, does 1 plus 2 really equal 3? Okay, we can tell that that is the case. 1 plus 2 equals 3. Okay, we got 3. But I really do think we need to, if we're going to be sincere truthers, we need to really make sure that all of our fundamentals is verifiable, is truth. And that includes, like, looking at the Satans of our history, such as the guy with the funny mustache. Like, what did that person say? Because I remember, I don't know, 10 years ago, somebody, like, I was watching a video, and they had gone to Auschwitz or something like that. And they were like, where's the gas chambers? And the folks were like, oh, there's no gas chambers. And in the 50s, there's this one place where they were like, okay, we had to install vents and stuff to make it look like there was a gas chamber, because, like, the guests, the people who came to see the Nazi death camps, they were like, but where's the gas chambers? There were no gas chambers. They had to fake a gas chamber, and it's understood that that's fake, but it's just put there because people want their story. Isn't that bizarre? Um, so yeah, because I was brought up, I was totally, there's, like, tons of anti-German propaganda, and I totally absorbed it, uh, and so now I'm like, was that totally mistaken? Like, this is a pretty bizarre situation. I mean, just like folks are like, okay, so the military is going to save us. So the military has always sacrificed. It's been a mass human sacrifice. The military, whichever military, um, And I'm really surprised when ex-military folks are trusting in the military, because the military has always thrown its own under the bus. Um, like, I guess the Stockholm syndrome is very effective. It's very strong. So I just think we gotta be realistic. We gotta be grounded, factual. Um, the status quo is not gonna help us if we're lying to ourselves. Especially right now, we're in such a volatile time. It seems like lying to ourselves is not gonna profit us. And like one last thing. So Hitler was saying that Satan, like there was a satanic agenda attacking the Germans. And I'm like, uh, it almost seems like we are going through the same stages of what World War II Germany did. Uh, and like it's 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 weird. I don't know what would happen. I'm hoping Jesus is actually going to return, because I don't know if people have it in them to do the right thing. I don't know if people have a moral compass anymore, in 2024. Because I think like the Americans I meet, everybody just wants to be comfortable. They could care less about doing the right thing. If their kid has to get sex change and they're a Christian, that kid's going to get their sex change because the Christian doesn't want to rock the boat, unfortunately. Uh, and, praise the Lord when the child who's been indoctrinated that they've got to get a sex change operation. Praise the Lord when that kid decides not to do that sex change operation. But that's what Christian parents, because who's having the kids? It's Christians. It's not gay men. Gay men aren't having babies. Lesbians aren't having babies. Even the trans couples, they're not having that many babies. The target of the LBGT agenda are the children. The children, because they because it's satanic, because when I was friends with folks in the LBGT community in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, nobody was like, oh, I gotta have kids involved in my sex life. Everybody was just trying to work on their own selves and doing something creative and making friends and having relationships and stuff like that. And like now, fast forward 30, 40 years, like the whole focus is children. Like Target has, tranny clothes for babies, satanic transsexual clothes for children. Target. And the managers totally defend it and like are entitled, because I complained to my local Target when I was in Denver and I saw it. And it was like all of the gay people came out of the woodwork and all of the workers were gay people. Like it's weird. Like stores seem to have like their whole focus is gay people, like having gay people, or certain departments, libraries, gay people, like gay, trans. There's always some man who's had his vocal cords worked on, talking as loud as could possibly be. You can hear that guy across the whole building, um, with his makeup on and wearing a dress. And it's like, this guy is such a dude, such a bore, such a overly masculinized person, that they can't even, like, they expect you to work so hard on your ability to delude yourself while they're being such a jerky man. So, and all these workplaces are totally enabling this nonsense, this torture, this you know assimilation, this theft of womanhood, theft of girlhood, theft of female safety. But anyway, um, yeah, folks, I think we need to realize that directed energy weapons has been used possibly for hundreds of years, and it's not just recently. We've got evidence of some melted buildings, mountains that just look like they're melted. They may have been melted civilizations, and there's other indications of melted buildings. But also, I think we need to look at the players in history, and were who we are told was good. Were they really good? Was the bad people really bad? For instance, Candace Owens, she's been really, like, I don't know if she's deep state planned opposition or whatever, but she's totally being canceled. And I remember when she first started out, and I think like somebody groomed her because she's very pretty, and she's got presence, and so I saw her you know growth as a presenter or whatever, pundit. I don't know the right word for it, but that she's taken a risk that's gotten her so much flack. Like that's impressive. That doesn't necessarily mean she's not deep state, but she's been calling out the synagogue of Satan, just like it is. So, like, and the thing to keep in mind is, so this Babylonian pagan death cult that is into child sacrifice and human sacrifice. So this has been around a long time, but not everybody who's of a Hebrew heritage is that death cult. Because I've known people, like, I grew up in New York City, I have relatives, and like, people are just like, they just go to work, they go hang out with friends, and they go home, take care of their cats, and then go to sleep, go to work. Like, these are not deep state human sacrifice kind of people. And so and even in World War II, for the country of Germany, like, there were actual Hebrew descent people who were fighting with the Germans. And so it's always like spun like these were secretive, blah, blah, blah. But like, if Germany was into restoring the economy, and if those people of Hebrew descent were supportive of Germany being self-sufficient and not dependent on the bankers, and that's the key thing, is because that guy with the funny mustache kicked out the bankers, kicked out the cartels. They ended human trafficking. They ended child trafficking, child sexual abuse, pedophilia. So, and I know leftists are going to be like, "Oh, that's so evil." That's so evil that the guy with the funny mustache ended pedophilia, ended human trafficking, and ended the bank's control. Like, that's what the leftists complain about. That's what and that's when somebody's insane. When common sense stuff happens and the leftists will have this knee-jerk reaction. You're evil for wanting this country free of the bankers, free of human trafficking, free of pedophilia. Like, it's just it's a spell. It's like a satanic witchcraft spell that we are under, and the Marxists just gobble it up. And these leftists are good friends. They're nice people. They're our family. They're acquaintances. They're everybody at the Target or the library or the university or civic groups. So, anyways, the bankers are not our friends. They've never been our friends. And insurance companies, they're not our friends. And so who controls the bankers? Who controls the insurance companies? Who controls people who do human trafficking and human sacrifice? I think they're all connected. So, um, this is important to know, and it's like, I don't know. I mean, I'm just waiting for Jesus to return, and yeah, and it's so weird because if the guy with the funny mustache in Germany in World War II was saying like Satanism is bad, you know, that's that's gives him some points, because I don't know. Did Churchill talk about how, the bankers and Satanism and child sacrifice was bad? Did Roosevelt? Did Stalin? No. So, and I remember reading that quote. Was it MacArthur who said that we fought we fought the wrong side? Like he was saying that Germany was the good guy because I think it was when the guy with the funny mustache said he was rejecting the bankers, then France and England went to war with Germany. So France and England ganged up on Germany because Germany was opting out of the banking cartel and likely the human sacrifice death cult, the pedophilia, and all that. So, isn't that wild? Like, that is weird. And, like, I know people who are like, edgy thinkers or whatever, but it's weird. Like, they're like, they won't believe the mainstream, but they won't really question anything that much outside of the mainstream. It's like all they'll do is watch porn or something like that, or a foreign film. Um, it seems to me, but they won't like seriously look into, well, what did the CDC say after the fact? What did these, countries that have been doing sex change operations on children for 20 years, what do they say about it? Like nobody, like they'll listen to edgy music or watch a crazy movie, but they won't look into important topics. And yet they'll claim to have an opinion, and a staunch opinion at that. So, anyways, I'm just really glad to be able to talk out loud here. And isn't that wild though? Like, if your country wants to opt out of the bankers, your country's going down, or like Gaddafi, like you're killed. I mean, hopefully that was a clone or an actor, and because it seems like Gaddafi did a lot of good for his country. I mean, I know people are like, "Oh, he tortured people," and who? How does anyone know what the truth is? Like, that's the question. Like, how does anyone know? Like, unless you're there or somebody that you trust that is watching and can see. And now with all these non-disclosure agreements and stuff like that's why it's like so much shady stuff goes on, because there's all these contracts and blackmail, I guess, that goes on. And so anyways, what do you guys think? And thanks for watching. God bless.